All right, I'm going to take you through the 3 elements you need to get paid to grow your newsletter starting from day one. Now, most corporate training, it comes from high-level people with a lot of corporate experience. I'm not that guy, and my newsletters have generated 1.17 right around there. But here's the thing. If you're looking for advice on getting investors or growing from 10 million to 200 million, I'm not the guy. You can just keep scrolling on that one. Okay. So I've never been okay with what is very common in the market, which is this wait and get paid kind of model. And I've done everything on my own with my own money, built from scratch. And when I do this, they've got to generate sales. And it's not perfectly day one all the time, but at least it should be kind of close to it. Right. And the reason for that's very basic and simple. It's like the money made from that is eventually going to become, the money that the family has to buy groceries with, right? So it's a very real thing. This isn't backed by corporate funding at all. So on top of that, you've also probably never heard of me, my newsletters, or anything like that. And the reason for that is I have never been the face of any of these brands, mostly because they were in very weird markets. All right. On top of that, I absolutely hate fads. I hate restarting my business because I'm not a big fan of the technical stuff. I don't like complex systems. And I don't like restarting every time a platform like social or search changes the rules. It's really obnoxious. On top of that, none of my newsletters rely on any single social platform, growth tactic, or individual revenue stream to function, yet they all operate under the same core fundamentals. All right, so the model I'm going to take you through right now started in 2011. It's been producing revenue almost from day one, and it's still making money today, and that's after I sold it. All right, so as you can see, this is just a couple of the revenue streams that this specific little newsletter ecosystem developed, and I sold it in 2021 for 6 figures, and that was the $100,000 initial down payment for it. So my most recent newsletter started in 2022, and it was an emerging food niche. I'm not going to get too deep into the thing for obvious reasons, but it's the exact same model as the one from 2011. And this one has grown now to become one of the largest communities in this space on earth for this stuff. So there's over 587,000 members, and that's just in that little group right there. No groups are not, vital to this thing. It just happened to be one of the places that it grew. So a lesson I've learned from all of this is that my newsletters tend to grow better when I get out of the way and I leave them alone. This is how the whole faceless thing started to really happen. All right. So here are the 3 elements that can help you get paid from day one. And so the first piece is super important. It's an evergreen market. And what that simply means is that this market has a steady interest or at least a slight upward trend. My favorite bad example of this is the one that makes everyone sad, which would be fidget spinners. I mean, look at that. That's just, this is from Google Trends, by the way. Nothing, boom, nothing. Again, you never ever want this. You absolutely avoid that like crazy. Now, a great example is something like personal finance. So you see like a really steady, kind of holding nice trend like that. And then maybe, recently here it's been creeping up a bit. So that's cool. Now, the next piece you need are what are called empowered buyers. All right. So don't worry, I'll give you an example of this, but these are basically people who define a key aspect of their identity through the use, consumption, or purchase of whatever is inside of that market. Now, it might sound complicated, but it's not. All right. So an example of one that you don't want to use would be people who are new to weight loss or doing that New Year's resolution. Now, here's the thing. I know that this is like a multi-trillion-dollar global market, which is great for some people, but it's terrible for newsletters, okay? And the reason why is because this particular group of people, they're new, they're exploring, and if you look at what they do and how they behave in the market, they'll tend to, get in there, but they'll be real excited, and then after 30, sometimes 90 days, they just quit. On top of that, if they do make it through that 90-day window, they're going to be trying on a lot of different ideas, meaning they're going to be changing their identity all the time. And if you are trying to build a newsletter around this, you're going to be changing your newsletter tone. But the problem is, say you have 2,000 of them, well, that's 2,000 people that could be totally changing their identity all the time, and it gets really hard. All right, so this just makes short and long-term revenue with your newsletter kind of sketchy. All right, so a good example would be runners. And people who have been doing it for a long time because it's a lifestyle. The goal is to improve. They can buy tons of stuff. They have zero identity change, and they'll also recruit people into their cult. It's lovely. So it makes it very easy to communicate with them. All right. So it opens up tons of revenue stream possibilities, everything from info products to sponsorships and all the things in the middle. All right. And then the third piece, and I'm really going to touch on this one here, is a structure that does not require you specifically. So what it doesn't mean is that this is not about, saying, okay, I'm going to do a newsletter. I'm going to start outsourcing from day one. No, no, no. You do what you need to do. Okay. And in most cases, with me included, in the beginning, I did all the things as a lot of entrepreneurs do, right? But this is the trap, okay, is the thought process in people's minds that says, okay, once this makes enough money, I will hire someone to do whatever these things are that I'm doing, right? This locks you into a very specific, very tight framework. When I have, then I'll. And almost nobody escapes this. And it's super, super sneaky because almost no one knows that it is a trap in the first place. Now, this is how this breaks in real life. And this is just one of the ways. There are many. All right. So if you imagine the best thing happening to your newsletter, takes off, boom. Well, let's say you're going for a year. All right. It's normal, normal, normal. And it just goes upward. Now you're doing 100,000 a month, right? Well, when it was small, you absolutely could do all of those things because it was easy. It was manageable, right? Well, I call this the entrepreneurial dumpster fire because what ends up happening is once you become successful, you literally have zero time, especially if you are the one doing all of the things all of the time. All right. And what that does is it puts you into a little scenario that I have titled Hire and Hurl. And what happens, and I'll give you a real simple example with this, is social media is typically the first beast. It's either customer service or social media. Both of those are like, ah. And what happens is you go and look for somebody while you're running around like a headless chicken because you're so busy. Let's find someone. Oh, you're a social media influencer, or you're a social media professional. Great, awesome. You grab them and you hurl them at the problem because they said they were good at it. In almost every situation, guess what happens? They fail. They don't live up to your standards. You get angry. And what happens is people become very jaded and are like, no one could do this as good as me. And that's absolutely not true. Okay. The hire and hurl thing does not work. This is what it means to have a structure that doesn't require you. You do the work first. Okay. We're starting where we're starting, but you're documenting it with the exact purpose of training somebody else. I do this in every single thing that I do. All right. So every single step, you don't need to go crazy with this stuff, but maybe do a video like this or a little SOP, standard operating procedure. Okay. You document every one of these steps, not just assuming, but knowing you're going to be stepping out of that and you want to be able to hand that to someone, not hire and hurl, but you want to hand this to someone and say, this is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to do it. And this is what it looks like when you do a great job. And you do this from day one because you have time in day one. All right. So if you just one of those things, this is what it's going to do. This helps you get to the paid to grow situation, the market you're in, who you're speaking to, and whether or not the structure actually needs you. All right. So then this is going to help you literally sidestep months of this whole waiting to earn, and it's going to help you do less work instead of putting in more hours. Okay. So in the next one, I'm going to be taking you through several of my favorite revenue streams. All right. I'll see you then.